As always, thank you very much, Coach G, for having me. I can't believe it's been 12 weeks. It's absolutely wild. But yeah, so let's get into this a little bit. I hope everybody's staying safe with all these, everything going on. But so today we're going to go over winning each route, having a plan for each route on the tree, regardless of what the coverage may look like. Specifically, we'll dive into the totality of the coverage, but we're really referring to our own cover defender. Okay, I'm Mike Vannucci. I'm from Long Island, New York. I coach at Plainedge High School, spent some time at the college level. I run my own receiver academy, which I'm really grateful to do. Here's my contact info if anybody needs it. These are building off of essentially some of the previous presentations that I had given. So we're not going to dive into the true minutia of each break point. Rather, we'll be coming up with a plan for executing each route based on what our cover defender is doing. Just an agenda, what we're going to be going over. I like to include some type of motor learning aspect in everything, whether it's a slide of its own, whether it's something big, whether it's something little I touch on. So we're just going to touch on one brief excerpt from an article on visualization. We're going to go over indicators, stance and start, line of scrimmage, second level release, stem, short 90s, long 90s, winning the hitch, winning the curl, comeback slant. If we have time, we'll get to the post and the rocker step. So this is just a small piece from an article which talks about visualization in stroke patients. If I hit play here, we'll underline some important parts, okay? So it says results from numerous functional imaging studies indicate that mental practice, so that's visualization to us, activates a large variety of motor-related brain regions in the upper and lower limbs. There's evidence from MRI mental practice involves virtually all the same stages of motor control as physical practice. So what this means is essentially that stroke patients who are unable to activate certain limbs, when they visualize moving them again, the same regions of the brain that activate while they are physically moving them are activating when they are visualizing moving them. So we can get reps without actually getting reps. So I tell all our guys all the time, like, see yourself executing what we're going over before your first rep. I'll present them a video before what we're doing in practice, what we're doing in a session of quality execution of what we're working on. That way, by the time they get there, they've already had hundreds of reps, whether it's in the car on the way to the session. Their brain has seen and put themselves through the stages of executing the rep the way it should be executed. So that's just the brief motor learning part for this presentation. You're going to hear me say no indicators a ton of time. That's an abrupt or sudden change of height. And this slide's been in every one of my presentations because I believe it's that important. This is an abrupt change of height. It's not the gradual rise as we go from acceleration to max velocity. This is just like I'm driving out and then I pop up, or I pop up before I drop down in a break. So no abrupt change of height, no change in stride. That includes our arm action. Our arms are connected to our legs. If my arms die or they rise up or they start changing or my stride chops up before my break point, that's an indicator for a DB. He's going to drive the route or he's going to catch on to something. Eye discipline. Obviously, we can use our eyes as weapons. We can move a defender with our eyes. But when we're not doing that, we need to look right through them. I don't want to stare where I'm breaking. This is another indicator. I'm always threatening vertical. There are times to change tempos, but when we're not, we're going. If we froze the route prior to our break point, we should still think that if I hit play, you're going to continue on your vertical stem. And everything's a vertical until it's not. So we'll dive into stance and start, 5 commandments. The most important thing is that the player is comfortable. Like, we can try and fit guys into these parameters in this box, but if they're uncomfortable there, then they can't play football there. So it's not really about, how we want them to look. It's how they feel in their stance. They need to feel explosive. They need to look explosive as they exit the line of scrimmage. Always prepared for combat. Obviously, if it's off coverage, you can be more relaxed with your hands. Depending on how pressed up he really is, you could kind of still leave him down if there's some cushion. No energy leak, so I don't want to drop. I don't want to rise. Ideally, I want to exit at whatever height I'm in my stance. And then we should mimic that of a sprinter coming out of the blocks. Obviously, we don't have blocks at the line of scrimmage. We want to try and mimic those joint angles as best as possible. So here's just an example of a good stance. There's some parameters I like to look for in our guys. It's a bend in this back leg. My toes are dug into the turf. I have a large majority of my weight on this front foot. If we could get a positive shin angle, that's fine. Some guys don't have the dorsiflexion to do so. Once again, it's about them being comfortable, not trying to force anything, but that's something we'll look for. And then chest over knee, nose over toe. Same concept here. Hands up, kind of ready for a fight. There's a little bit of space here, so he doesn't have them, up like this, like you see kids do all the time. Could have a little more bend in his back leg. I mean, this is DeAndre Hopkins. If he's comfortable here, let him go. There's no true red flags. When I say coming out of the blocks, ideally, now you're not going to get your 14-year-old kid to look like a Safa Powell. That's not how it works. But this is the standard that we'd like to mimic in a sense. Okay, driving out, full strides in attack mode. We are always in attack mode. One thing I'd like to bring up here is we'll hear guys always talking about, you got to get low in your stance. You got to stay low out of the line of scrimmage. And that's all good and well, but something we need to be aware of is you'll see this straight line here from the posterior part of his head all the way down to his heel. Okay. When you're telling kids to stay low, they can't, a lot of them don't have the strength to get in this position, this forward lean where the joints are stacked, like a proper acceleration position. So what they're going to do is they're just going to bend over. And essentially, the braking at the waist, while they look lower, they're really not as fast because they're not able to produce as much force in the ground. So just be wary of the words you use for your kids. And we could dive deeper into that. If anybody has questions after this presentation, please reach out to me. But just saying get lower, how are they getting lower, right? Like, are they maintaining that acceleration angle, or are they just braking at the waist? They're not the same. And then here's Julio. Like, he's a different breed. I understand that you're not going to get your 7th grade kid to look like Julio Jones, but he's just in attack mode. Like, there's no bullshit off the line. I'm out. Like, looks like he's running a 100-meter sprint. Obviously, there's a little bit of horizontal displacement to his stem. It's football. It's not a 100-meter, but he is in full attack mode. Like, this is a sprint. Okay, and this is what we need to look like up until break point. Now, obviously, we spoke about there might be some type of change of tempo in the stem based on what you're trying to manipulate. But if we're not changing tempo, this is what we need to be like. So winning the line of scrimmage, always have a plan. So I can't, I'm sure all of us can attest to this. You get a kid who we're doing one-on-ones or in a game, and he has a corner lined up on him, and he gets jammed up. And you ask him, what was your plan? And he says, I don't know, coach. I have no fucking idea. Major issue, right? Like, it's on us to present to our players all these tools, explain to them when and how to use them, for them to form a plan based on where that cover defender is aligned. We're counter punchers. I got this from Coach Lieb's, the sideline hustle. I really liked it. I ran with it a little bit. We don't punch first, right? So he shoots, we shoot. We're going to manipulate with our feet most of the time. After he feels like he's in oh shit mode, he's going to shoot his hands. We're going to finish him off. If he's patient, we'll heat him up a little bit. If he's aggressive, we'll rock him to sleep. These are not locked in, right? Like, these are just ideas. Meaning, it's just because he's aggressive doesn't mean we have to rock him to sleep. Just because he's patient doesn't mean we have to heat him up. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the speed release. When we have route leverage, we have a slower cover defender. He's inside. We don't need to play around with him. Sometimes less is more. Let's just go, okay? We're going to get some width and depth with our first movement versus press, like hard press. We're just out. Versus soft press, we might want to eat up a little space before we execute this speed release, often paired with a blade, which we'll get into. So here's Brandon Cooks. He's working on Sean Smith. Sean Smith is not as linearly gifted as Brandon Cooks is. Brandon Cooks says, fuck you, I'm out now. So he's going to come to balance where he brings both feet together. and just gets width and depth to the point where he cannot match it. And then it's, then it's a race. And now ideally we could stack, and you're going to see what I mean here. Sometimes you don't want to stack. Where's the safety? But I guess when Drew Brees is your quarterback, it doesn't really matter where you are on the field. He's going to put it on you. But you'll see what I mean in a second. Come the balance. And then I'm going to get width and depth because I know this guy cannot run with me. And now it's a foot race. This is exactly where we want him. He's a bigger, slower corner. Why play around with them at the line of scrimmage? Why play around with them? Sometimes less is more. Sometimes football is really this easy. Balance out. The big thing here is we do want to get width and depth. If I try and shave him too close, he can get the hands on and recover. I do want to get width and depth. Here's another view of it from the All-22. He's down here at the bottom of the screen. Another example is speed release. So that was coming to balance. Sometimes we could spend no time where our first step, okay, my inside foot is up. My first step is gaining width and depth. I'm not coming to balance at the line of scrimmage. Some kids are a little uncomfortable with this. I do like to come to balance because it almost adds like a Hesi or a change of tempo in it. But, to each their own. You don't have to do either or. It's what you're comfortable with. Will work both. So here's an example of Julio at the top. He's actually getting bracketed or doubled with a linebacker, Thomas Davis, on him, which is pretty disrespectful. You might as well put a trash can out there. Not that Thomas Davis isn't good, but Julio's a little bit more athletically gifted. So Julio's at the top. You're going to see him waste no movement. He's just going to get width and depth and run. Okay, so no wasted movement. I'm out here now. Like, come get me. Sometimes it's really this easy. Okay, this is how do you know when to execute this? Who's my cover defender? Like film study. Has your guy been struggling linearly? Is he a slower cover defender? Is he lined up? Where is he aligned? Like head up is a little iffy. If he's inside shade, you have vertical route. Sometimes let's just go play ball. If you want to get sometimes we'll give a little juice or some type of jab or hezi or stretch when it's a better defender or we need to get him off his landmark. We need to freeze him. But when he's linearly, like, just doesn't run as fast as us, fuck him. Like, let's go. And then here's another one. This is Allen Robinson against Brandon Browner. Physical corner. Not as fast as Allen Robinson is. You'll see him. He gets beat with the speed release, and he tries to latch on. And A-Rob does a really nice job fighting him off. But this is no wasted movement. He turns it into a foot race. He does a good job shedding, arm barring. But he wastes no time and gets width and depth. Turns it into a race. So now we'll move to our jabs. The objective here is to move or freeze a cover defender. So we're trying to pull him opposite of where we want to go. I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's equivalent to a crossover in basketball. Sometimes we'll tell guys, act like you're dribbling a ball when we're doing drills. Like, feel it. It's the same thing. We're working that shift the weight from hip to hip, pushing off our inside edge of our foot. And the biggest thing here is it's not just me picking my foot up and putting it down. My foot, hip, shoulder, and head are all moving together. We need all of them in sync to manipulate the cover defender. If I just pick my foot up and move it outside like I'm doing the hokey pokey, nobody's threatened. I need to threaten this guy. I need to pull him. So here's Baron Davis. Coach G, this is up in you're down in your territory.
Yeah.
Charlotte Hornets. So watch his foot, hip, shoulder, and head all together. Right? Like, it's not just one. They're all moving together to move the defender. I think that's Sam Cassell too. It's great. Okay, so let's run this back and we'll let it play full speed. It's not just this, right? It's not just his foot. His hip is coming out, his shoulder's coming out, his head's coming out. Jamal Crawford, same thing. Foot, hip, shoulder, head. Foot, hip, shoulder, head. All together. We don't want to move one without the other. Okay, so here it is with Doug Baldwin. Foot, hip, shoulder, head, move them inside. Paul Richardson, who he's not really, this really is not his game as much, but he's still able to execute it pretty well. Right, his defender is outside, a little bit of an outside shade, moves them inside with the double jab. Allen Robinson eats up space. So the amount of space we eat up, like I don't want to work these jabs right here, okay? Because then he's not threatened. He'll just be able to react. I want to eat up a little bit of space here before I execute. I like to leave a yard. I like to get within a yard, like arms distance. If I get any tighter than arms distance at the top, he can snatch me up right now. Okay, so I want to leave this distance, a yard, arm's length. I'd rather miss long than short. For him to miss with his jam, because once he gets off balance here, once his weight gets loaded up on this foot, because we're going this way, he's going to have to shoot his hands as his last resort. I want to be a distance away where I can get rid of him and be untouched. I want to avoid collision. Here's Van Jefferson, one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. Foot, hip, shoulder, head, all moving together. 2, back out. 2, back out. Not in a rush. A lot of guys will rush these and they'll kind of just pick their foot up and put them down, pick their foot up and put them down, put it down. And this guy's just standing there because he's not threatened. We're going to be outside our framework here. And I think that's real important for guys. And we're pushing off this inside part of our foot, our arch, our inside edge, our instep, whatever you want to call it, pushing off our inside edge and working back out. And here's one more. This is like a come to balance double. So now we'll move to a stretch release. And these are really this is the extent of what we're going to teach our guys. Like we'll present them these different releases, explain to them when to use them, how to use them. They'll apply them in game, in practice, and we'll get into the rest of them. There's not many more though. We don't want to overload them with 15 different releases and then they get out there and they have no idea what they're doing. So the stretch is where we're trying to pull or move a defender. It's more like a motor. We're eating up space or a fire release. We're trying to move. You're usually moving laterally to pull him or stretch him away from where we want to go. We're resetting the line of scrimmage, eating up space. The amount of space we eat up is determined by what his depth is, usually paired with jabs or a speed release. So here's Julio. He's got a slant, cover defender inside. He's going to stretch him out here to win back here. Willie Snead in the slot. Ugh. We're patient. If we don't pull him, we're covered. So we're patient here. It's usually paired with some type of jab, like that. Both ways. So here's Curtis Samuel. He's going to work a vertical route on it, fade ball. He's going to stretch him inside, jab and leave. Keenan Allen, stretch, and there's our jab. Devontae, stretch, double jab. So the big thing here is it usually works best against like a shadow corner, a motor mirror corner, who's not looking to hard press, right? Like he's trying to match our movement. So we're going to pull him out and leave him there with a couple jabs. The reason I said this could also be used with speed releases, I don't have any clips of it, but Devontae does a really nice job. I've clips of him doing Hesi, but not the stretch. He does a really nice job of working this and then hitting a double or a speed release back out. So the big thing is pairing it with other releases, making them look the same. So here's another one that I just wanted to throw in because I think it's awesome. It's difficult to execute because of the tempo of it. It gets rushed a lot. Very similar to a stretch, but we're really just looking to freeze a cover defender. So it's almost like we're like frozen in time for our first step off the line of scrimmage. Can win in or outside. It's usually to release outside. So here's Davante Adams, and if you took their combine metrics, Davante Adams and Darius Slay, they would tell you that Darius Slay is a much better athlete on paper than Davante Adams. When you put the film on of them playing, it's completely opposite because Davante Adams does such a damn good job of playing with his tempo, changing his tempo, and making everything look the same. So this is what we mean by Hesi. Like this first step off the line is kind of He's kind of just hopping into it to freeze Darius Slay a little bit, and then he leaves him. And there's a really good view of what it does in the next clip. So here he is working on, I believe it's Sidney Jones. Doesn't matter though. Same concept, okay? Right now, he's got both feet in the air, okay? The corner has both his feet in the air. Neither of them are in the ground. He can't do anything. That's what the Hesi does. Like it freezes the cover defender for a tenth of a second. That tenth of a second is just enough for us to start our acceleration. Now, not only does he have to get his feet back in the ground, but he has to react. By the time he reacts, we're out in front. So here is the dive release. This is the last release that we're going to discuss. So we have the speed, the jabs, or crossover, the stretch, the Hesi, and the dive. This is probably used the least. It's similar to a diamond. It's like a reverse diamond release where I'm diving inside to work back out. The big thing here is we're threatening horizontally. Like I need to get my cover defender to flip his hip to turn inside and run. Ideally, we want to attack with full strides to really threaten. The objective here is to get the defender turned to flip his hip and run opposite. Can reestablish our vertical stem or get to our break immediately. It's obviously based on what the route is. So here's an example of Adam Thielen. Now, one thing I want to talk about here, this is a run play. Thielen's just gathering information, right? Like how is this guy going to play me based on what releases? So Thielen, while he knows this is a run play, his cover defender does not. So Thielen is going to, work a release, steal a release, and see how what's going to work later in the game and what isn't. How is this guy going to play certain techniques? Regardless, here's the dive release, and you're going to see him work inside, back out. He's getting him to flip his hip to the inside because he threatens him horizontally. We want to think of it as attacking in V's, and then he does a nice job of it here. Here's Deebo Samuel. I'm sure everybody's seen this route. It was all over Twitter. But he does a really nice job threatening the corner hard inside. Sticks his foot in the ground, works back out. So he dives inside, works back out. Obviously, you got to be prepared for combat. This looks it's very similar to a diamond release. It's just inside. So we're prepared for combat. He extends his arm to latch. We throw him by. Now here, Deebo works his back on his vertical stem because he has a deeper out route. But this also works fine against shorter routes where I'm just diving in and then working back out. The big thing here is that we are threatening him horizontally. If I bullshit this, he's not going to turn and run. If I bullshit this dive, he's not going to turn and run. I got to threaten him horizontally here. So now we're going to move to winning with our hands, okay? So I had mentioned it previously. I got this from Coach Leaves. Counter punchers, we never shoot first, right? Like he shoots, we're reactive. That's what puts him to sleep. The DB's hands are going to be his last resort. So when we beat him with his feet and he feels like he's in, oh shit, like I'm about to get beat, his hands are coming. Obviously, that there's a caveat. If he's a hard press corner, he's going to try and shoot his hands right away. For the most part, we beat him with our feet. His hands are coming. We work a slap chop, a shed white, and a blade. We don't present them with too much. These are the three techniques we work, and we hammer them down. So here's just an example of what we mean by counter punchers. Like he throws, we throw. We don't throw the first one. We throw the second, we finish it. And here's an example. Byron Jones shoots his hands. DeAndre Hopkins counter punches. Okay, we don't shoot first. We finish the fight though. So our slap chop, we equate it to our jab cross. We're trying to strike elbow to shoulder. Really, anything is fine, but ideally, when we get elbow to shoulder, his whole body's going to turn. Big thing that I don't think gets coached enough, for that split second where I'm at the line of scrimmage, I want to see what I'm hitting. Like, this is the most important thing in the world. What's going on in front of me right now? If I don't get this guy's hands off me, I lose the route. It doesn't matter what I'm running after the line of scrimmage. So for that split second when the ball snaps, my eyes go here so I can see what I'm working on, see what I'm trying to hit. Can't hit what you can't see. Okay, so here's our jab cross. Mike Williams to the left of your screen. He's gonna DB's gonna shoot his left hand. He's gonna slap and chop over the top. Now you'll see him come all the way high here. Ideally, we're kind of shooting right above it and chopping it down to pull him this way. Since he doesn't put much violence on it, like we're really trying to break his fucking forearm. Since he doesn't put much violence on it, this guy's able to speed turn and recover. Adam Thielen, similar concept here. He gets a little high over the top. We want to stay tight to that arm that's extended. Slap, chop. Slap, chop. What I mean by that is this space here. Now, it's not like a true swim. He's not completely over the top. But just try to eliminate this space as best as possible. And then we teach one hand slap, two hand. Really, it's if he shoots two, we shoot two based on film study. But, whatever they're comfortable with is the most important thing. And then we're really trying to be violent here. Like, I want this guy to take a step inside because of the force I use to push him away.
Coach, it was just asked, could you just explain the difference again between the dive and the diamond?
Yeah, the dive is just inside where the diamond's outside, essentially. Like the way we run them is very similar. If, for example, if Debo had a slant right now, well, he wouldn't do it against this coverage because he's outside. We'll say this cover defender's inside, and Debo has a slant. Like I'm just working it this way to win this way. When I have a dive, I'm just working it this way to win this way. The difference out of the dive is also where the diamond on a slant, I'm usually working back. I'm working back flat. I may push back vertical out of my dive based on what route I'm running. Like I could work this dive release if he's outside leverage when I have a deep out, which Debo works. He dives outside, pushes back vertical. Whereas a diamond release is I'm winning outside to win inside. Does that make sense? And we're going to get to the diamond later in this presentation as well.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, so here's our shed wipe. This is personally my favorite. I'm a little biased though because I watch a ton of Devontae Adams, and he is probably the best in the game at this. This is our uppercut. So we're up, out, and back. So what I mean by that is he tries to latch on shoulder pad. I'm up, out, back, trying to get him off. Like I said, like the slap chop to me is more when he's trying to get breastplate. The shed is more when he's trying to get higher shoulder pad. We'll take a look at some. Here's Devontae working it. He shoots. So once again, counter punchers. He shoots, we shoot. He's trying to get on the shoulder pad, and I'm shedding him off. He shoots, we shoot. He's trying to get on my shoulder pad, and I shed him right off. It's up, out, and back. Michael Gallup, same thing. He shoots, we shoot. Up, out, back. And then Jordy Nelson to the right of your screen. And I like this clip. While the shed is not as evident as the other ones, this is also something we work in stem. So he's trying to latch in our vertical stem. We could shed him off regardless whether it's at the line of scrimmage or deeper down the field. There it comes again. So it does it at the line, and then he does it again towards the top of his route. So here's our main dodge. This, to me, is usually paired with either a speed or our jabs. Like, we'll complete our jabs with the blade. We're really just eliminating that shoulder pad. Like, he wants to hit us on our breastplate. We're eliminating it so he gets us more in the back of our shoulder pad, our scapula area. That way, when he pushes us, we're not really widened anymore. He's almost pushing us into our route. Ideally, we want to think about getting our chest turned to the sideline, and it is a slight dip in height, but I'm not running my knuckles on the ground. Okay, like, because if he gets me when I'm that low, he's going to bench press me to the ground. But I am going to dip a little bit. So here's just some clips, bobbing and weaving. It's reactive. So I'm not just doing it right off the line of scrimmage, in the sense I kind of want to shoot. Sometimes we will, but it's more reactive as well. So here's AB working an inside fade, and you're going to see him blade that shoulder off of a speed release. He's reactive with it. So now his chest is to the sideline. Malcolm Butler's hand is now on his shoulder pad, and he's going to work this until he overtakes him. So what I mean by that is he's not just blading and now he's back square again. Okay? He's going to work this until he overtakes him, where he's in front of him. Not a complete stack, but I mean literally he has a yard of separation on him before he exits his blade release. It's almost like an edge rusher coming around the edge, or it's that sudden dip. We're trying to remove that shoulder. Here's another rep. He stays on it, and then he does AB shit. And here's the famous blade rep. Once again, like, it doesn't have to be this. Like, to expect your 14-year-old freshman to look like AB is negligent. But this is, we say eliminate the shoulder. There it is. So second level releases. We're bringing the line of scrimmage to him. Sometimes we want to attack leverage. Sometimes we want to reverse them and attack away from the defender. When we do that, we want to attack in V's, as we mentioned, about 1 to 2 yards outside of my defender. Okay, we want to make him make our decision easy. So here's an example. We'll bring the blade to the cover defender. So this is just less about how we approach it, more about the execution of the blade at the second level. So we're going to attack. Now, AJ Green doesn't have to work it because the cover defender doesn't shoot his hands to late. He kind of caught between a shit and a fart. Here's a good example of it. Here's Greg Jennings. So eliminate the shoulder. That's what we mean by the suddenness of it. Eliminate the shoulder. So that's just bringing the blade to our second level release. And I'll talk about when we would use it. So here's an example, and we're going to dive a little deeper in it right now. So what I meant by attack 2 yards wide, like, here's my cover defender for now. I have to get as clean of a release on this guy as possible. So what I want to do here, he has a seam. I don't want to dive in here because if he drives me inside, the route's over. Okay. Could you attack and then slip? Sure. But realistically, he's aligned so wide that I can attack here and slip underneath him, and I could still be at my landmark. So what I meant by 1 to 2 yards, like, I kind of want to attack right here. If this guy's still flat-footed and he's not threatening to beat me to my spot, I'm going to stay on it. If I get to here and he's still not completely threatened, but he could possibly get a hand on, I'll just blade him and continue outside. If he flips his hip to turn to run because he has to widen immediately, then I'll stick my left foot in the ground and slip him and get back on my vertical stem. So that's what we mean by make him make a decision. I want to attack 2 yards away from him, and you'll see it play out here. Like Thomas is not straight up the field. He's kind of a little bit on an angle. He's not threatening him to expand him or run him too far wide. So he stays on his path and then kind of bends it back inside. Now, if he was to expand super quick and he was to beat us to our spot, I'm full speed here. I just stick my left foot in the ground and slip underneath him. And this takes reps, but it's everybody can do it. We did it with our high school guys or JV guys. Everybody can do it. Just take some reps in identifying and responding to that stimulus. Right? If you just work this stuff on air and then you get to a game, it's not going to transfer. Like they need to have some type of stimulus that they're responding to, which kind of simulates what they're going to see in live rep. So you just saw an example of staying wide. Here's an example of Martellus Bennett. Here's his cover defender. He's going to stretch here. He overruns it. He slips inside him. So winning in our stem, we can use our stem as a weapon. Here's just some tools that we play around with. Attacking the blind spot, we got to use our second level releases, obviously, in our stem. But here are just some tools. I'm going to go through them rather briefly. Attacking the blind spot is just where we're chasing the near defender's hip, defender's near hip. Always in attack mode. We got to threaten him. We got to heat him up. He has to feel threatened. There's that brief moment where he loses sight of us. Ideally, we want him to flip his hip and speed turn and initiate our break out of his sight. So here's Coop attacking the near hip. Make him turn and run. Can't see us. But the most important, and he works a Hesi here, which we're not going to talk about right now. But the most important thing here is how much he threatens. Like he is in full attack mode. He heats him up and sits it down. Not only for, so it's most commonly with curls, comebacks and stop routes. Can be really used for anything which involves him flipping his hip and turn and run. Here's Demarius Thomas on a dig. He expands to the blind spot, chases that near hip, rolls it over. Brandon Cooks, he kind of creates his own blind spot here, which we'll get into a little bit when we get to our out routes. But I want to chase here now. Like once he gives me his butt, like I want to chase so he can't see me. So this is just something that we play around with just because guys like to have some creativity in what they do. It builds off attacking the blind spot. We call it the circus stem. I don't really remember where I got that terminology from. We attack where we want to go first. We work back opposite and finish back where we started. When the DB's latched away from our break point, we can usually finish with a fake throw by, which we're going to get into. So Keenan Allen wins outside, works back inside to finish back outside. I think they might call it the circus stem because you just make your cover defender look like a fucking clown. I don't really know. Here's Diggs. Win outside, work back inside, win back outside. And then this is something I wanted to discuss. This, you could call this whatever you want. It's really just the poster clip for winning, chasing the blind spot, chasing the near hip, getting in the blind spot. But the real thing I want to discuss here is like the importance of understanding the full concept. So T.Y. Hilton's down at the bottom of our screen. He's not, he's on the backside of Andrew Luck's read here. So he's able to do whatever he wants in his vertical stem right now. And he just chases the blind spot like 4 times. He creates it. But the reason he's able to spend that much time in his stem is because of him not being in the primary read. what I mean by that is Luck is gonna, they got play action. Okay, so Luck's reading the left side of the field here. So if we go back and watch T.Y. Hilton, he really works this stem. He's got a deep in breaker. So let's say he just pushed this thing vertical, wins inside, pushes vertical, or even chases blind spot and pushes vertical. If he breaks in early, he's on top of this other in breaker's route, or technically outbreaker, I believe. I don't know where he came from. Yeah, outbreaker. So he's on his back. So understanding the concept, this is play action. Is it inside zone? Is it outside zone? How long is the play action? So there's obviously inside zone takes a little bit quicker than outside zone. Like understanding where I am in the progression, like that dictates what I can do in my stem, how creative I can get, like how much time I have to manipulate my cover defender. I think that's something that should be taken away from this clip, that T.Y. Hilton's not just doing whatever the fuck he wants. Like he's doing this for a reason. This is something we play around with as well. So the peak technique is the same side release tool. So it's not a double move. Nothing changes in our route stem, just a slight peak prior to our break point. We want to limit any change of height or loss of speed. Nothing should change in our vertical stem other than we just kind of snap our head for about 1/10 of a second prior to our break. So here's Calvin Ridley. He dives inside, but he ends up finishing back out. So I'm just going to turn my head. Okay, this guy can't tell if I could see the ball or not. It's the action of turning my head which makes him believe I'm looking for it. Right before my break, and I roll it over. Peek, leave him. Devontae Adams, same thing. Working double jab. He's going to peek and leave him. So now we're going to get into some real routes, full routes. We went over the line of scrimmage. We went over the stance to start. We went over winning in our stem. Now we're going to talk about some 90s. So inner outbreakers versus cushion. We're saying less is more. Let's roll this shit over. Obviously, based on scheme, that may be locked into a square cut. But we're saying if it's not, we're rolling it over. His cushion is our separation. We just need to maintain it. Versus press, we can work opposite release throw by or same side release fight pressure with pressure. Give them the flipper or the chicken wing, whatever you want to call it. And obviously, we're trying to stay in attack mode. So here's some examples of some quick outs. Here's Deshaun Jackson, wasting no time. He's right here. No time, just attack, roll it over. This is routes on air for us, essentially. Like this guy, sometimes football is really this easy. Like all I have to do is attack, work a speed cut, and roll it over. Previous presentations, we dive really deep in the discussion of how to run a speed cut, the mechanics of it. For the sake of time, we're not going to dive deep into that today because we're just discussing the tools to win. Keyshawn Johnson attacks, rolls it over. Could even finish a little bit more flat and negative late with his chin to his shoulder, but just cushion at the break point, right? So 5 yards at the top, 5 yards at the break, 5 yards of separation. By the time I roll my foot in the ground, the ball's out. This guy's late. Less is more, okay? Same concept. Cushion at the break point, roll it over. Waste no time. So now we'll talk about when we have to, same thing, speed cut, we have high outside leverage. Often occurs when we're condensed. We just want to spray to this outside shoulder. So what we mean by spray is when I have a guy high and outside, I'm not just going to run my route straight up. I'm not going to just attack vertical. I'm going to attack in a straight line. Okay, so I'm not circling out to square. I'm straight line to his outside shoulder. to try and regain route leverage. Doug Baldwin at the top. Really nice job snapping his head out of this, glues his chin to his shoulder. Julio Jones, bottom of your screen. Spray, speed cut. Cushion at the break point. Breakdown for what? Breakdown for what? We got 8 yards of separation. Ask any quarterback if they like 8 yards of separation. Okay, they're going to tell you yes 11 out of 10 times. Roll that shit over, it's routes on air. Okay, so now we're taking same side release. So Edelman here is running an in-breaker. We're going to get to the top, fight pressure with pressure, and separate. He works a little flipper here. The big thing here is I want to force this guy around over the top as I finish flat. Here it is on an outbreaker. He wins outside. Pressure with pressure. Snap it off and separate. You can lean into him. You can flipper at the end of it. You can kind of half extend your arm. If he's latched, we're allowed to latch. Okay? There are multiple ways to do it, but whatever he's putting on us, we want to put more back to separate. The big thing here is that I'm still attacking vertical. Like, I'm not bullshitting here because I want this guy turned to run this way. Because you'll see here when we snap flat, he still continues down the field. That's not because of the pressure he uses. That's because of him still attacking vertical in his stem. And then here's another example of it. This is more like a short post, but it's a good example of pressure with pressure. Odell Beckham in the slot. Here's the point man in the stack. Lean, separate. Lean, separate. This is a same side release tool. So what I mean by that is I got an in-breaker. I went inside on my release. I'm going to fight pressure with pressure. I have an outbreaker. I went outside with my release. I'm going to fight pressure with pressure. The throw by we're going to get into here because that's another one. So now we got deeper ins, deeper outs. Same thing, speed cut if there's cushion at the break. Spray speed if he's high and outside. We got to win back route leverage. So this is something that we've been playing around with as well. It's really fun. Spray restem to speed. This is when we try and spray to that outside shoulder, but we can't capture it. We'll stick back vertical to try and get him to flip a sip, turn, and run, and then we'll work a speed cut. It's almost like creating a blind spot, if you will. And then depending on where we are, sometimes scheme determines our break point. If we have to snap down or drop on a in-breaker, we have to break down, or he's a little bit tight to our depth and we can't really speed cut because the ground I gain will bring me into him. I got to drop violently, suddenly, and break flat underneath. And we'll talk about all of these right now. So here's Michael Thomas. We saw a bunch of speed cuts. This is just another good one to show. So he's going to attack vertical. This is frozen right before he rolls this over. You can't tell what route he's running, and I think that's the most important thing. His cover defenders there's so much cushion, there's so much separation by alignment that his cover defender's not even on the screen right now. So all we have to do is roll this over and speed cut. Attack. We're going to attack vertical. Roll it over. Same thing on an in-breaker. Speed cut. So this guy's hipped with us, but he's turned to run this way. We're attacking vertical. I could still roll this over because he has to react to the break. And you can see why some teams like to square cut in breakers. Like this gets real close. Des Bryant. Roll it over. So we'll also work a rocker step in our speed cut. This is really subtle. It's not identical to the rockers you see in your posts and your corners. It's just something to freeze him or or have him take a step in the opposite direction of where we want to go. Devontae Adams in the slot. 1, 2. So he's going to stick left, roll off his right. Works well when he's kind of tight to our route depth. Just something to freeze him or pull him this way. Here's Michael Pittman, bottom of your screen. Just watch how subtle it is. We're not overstriding. Just something to pull him. It's almost like a pressure step prior to our speed cut. And you can see what it does to his cover defender. Going to stick left, followed by the speed cut out. And then, so we're just like in our quick outs, when he's high and outside, we're going to spray and attack that outside shoulder. AB up at the top. Watch how much width he gets in his vertical stem. Just capture that outside shoulder, roll him over. One more. Chase the near hip. Work a speed cut. So now we try and spray, and this guy matches our stem. He gets width with us. I can't get my route leverage back. Okay, he expands. I'm going to stick my right foot in the ground. And now I really created a blind spot. Okay, now I'm going to push back vertical, and I'm going to work my speed cut from there. Similar rep here. I'm going to spray. Now, we could still get route leverage, but he's opened up to where we want to break to. Okay, so if we roll this over, he may be able to jump it, but he gives us an opening. Okay, let's chase here. So we spray. He opens up outside. Chase that near hip when he gives it to me. And then the importance of attacking leverage, right? Like here's a deep out from the outside receiver. He has an outside cover defender. Does not give him anything to either pull him inside, and does not give him anything. Doesn't spray at that outside shoulder. Okay, so he's high and outside. We need to do something to win back route leverage. We don't. He just jumps it. Probably shouldn't have thrown the ball there, but I'm not going to question Eli. He's thrown a lot more touchdowns than I have. So here's an example when we got to snap and break down. So before we dive into the break or how we execute it or why we use it, just watch Julio's vertical stem here. Like, he is in attack mode. This guy flips his hip and turns to run because of the aggressiveness in which Julio is attacking in his vertical stem. And that's the most important thing of any route. Forget about, I need to use this break versus this coverage versus do this. When this happens, we need to be in attack mode. And when you put this guy's film on, he's always attacking. Okay, so now he's going to snap down. If I speed cut here, I'm a little bit tight, right? Like, I'm a little tight to where the cover defender is. I might run into him. The other thing we saw when against this contour is, like, we saw Devontae and we saw Michael Pittman work a rocker. Not Julio's game as much. So Julio just stops on a dime and breaks it flat. So this is another example of when we would use the breakdown other than scheme's reason. So he's attacking. He's going to snap. And then I'm not going to dive completely deep into it because it's in the other presentations. Nose over, hip sink, arms tight to body. And I'm going to kind of rotate. I'm going to enter square with my snap. I'm going to kind of rotate my body to my break post snap down. And anybody that has questions on that, for the sake of time, we're not going to dive completely deep into it today, but please shoot me a message after this. We'll get on Zoom another day and we'll dive deep into it. So what I meant by if he speed cuts this and gains ground, like he's probably it's gonna be tough to avoid this cover defender. So he snaps it down, stops on a dime. Square cut. And here's another example of Calvin Ridley doing it on an in-breaker. Snap down, nose over, arms tight, and we're going to run out of it. Now, oftentimes we'll square cut an in-breaker when we have another in-breaker inside us. Like if I roll this over right now, like this, we'll be pissing in the same Coke bottle, okay? So that's another example when we want to square things. It's really, you know, what your OC wants, what you want. But if I speed cut this, Sanu and Ridley are pissing in the same Coke bottle. All right, so long 90s versus press. We have our same side release tools. We spoke about pressure with pressure, so we're not going to go over it. We spoke about our peak to speed cut, so we're not going to go over that right now. We will talk about stack when we beat them at the line of scrimmage. We'll talk about how we stack it and give them a hip shift at the top, and we will dive into the throw by. The stack to hip shift is the same for the opposite release, but we'll talk about the fake throw by as well. So here's an example. Devontae Adams, the bottom of your screen. We're going to dive inside. We're going to work inside here. Inside release. So now he has route leverage, so I'm taking an opposite release. He's going to try and latch. I'm going to throw by. I'm going to throw by right at where, ideally, the closer to the shoulder, the better, but we need to make contact with something. This is my favorite separation tool with an opposite release. I love when guys attack vertical. The most important thing here is that Devontae is truly threatening vertical. He stops, it's a slight weight drop and a throw by. Amari Cooper at the top, attack, throw by. You'll see him almost pull his guy's arm through. That's ideal. Sometimes it's tough to do that, but if you can, do it. The big thing here is he is threatening vertical. Like this is not bullshit in his vertical stem. DeAndre Hopkins, probably the most physical receiver in the league. Attack vertical, throw by. If we do this appropriately and properly, he should fly down the field. The importance of being aggressive in our vertical stem here. The importance of being aggressive in our vertical stem here is if you ever try and push somebody when they're not moving, it's hard, okay? If I'm running full speed and he's running full speed, the force I need to keep him moving is minimal. But if I'm bullshitting and he's bullshitting and neither of us are at full speed, it's a lot harder to move a human being who's at a lesser velocity. And then these are all the same clips. Michael Irvin, like we didn't reinvent the wheel here. Like people have been doing this for years. We just got to coach it. So now we're going to talk about opposite release, but we beat him. So now I can't throw him by because I'm stacked. Like basically I'm 2 yards ahead of him. I'm just gonna stack him up. I want to give him some type of head and shoulder, some type of hip shift to pull him opposite of my break. So here we have Cole Beasley working inside, gathers info. All right, now he goes. So now the throw by is no more. The throw by is no more right now. Okay, so now I'm going to stack and give him something to freeze him or pull him opposite of where I want to go. It could be left, right, like similar to just a rocker step that doesn't gain much ground. It can be just a inset where I give my head and shoulders. It's really whatever you want to do. Just be patient with it. Here's Adam Thielen, same concept. He's got an in-breaker, dives outside. Gives him a hip shift at the top. And then one more is DJ Moore, dives inside, works an inside release. Just a minor hip shift to the end. And then here's some fake throw bys. So this is also a same side release tool. When he's latched at route depth, I can't stack. He's latched. You could fight pressure with pressure, or you could work this. This is PhD level shit, but kids love it. Love it. It's fun to work. So I'm just gonna act like I'm gonna throw him by here. Okay, so this would be exactly what I would be doing if I was breaking to the out. And now I just work inside. You'll notice that this guy turns, this cover defender turns to the out because he thinks he's getting thrown by. Another rep, Jerry Judy. His guy's going to turn to the out because he thinks he's getting a throw by. We just peek behind and leave. Okay, this takes a lot of patience. Guys' internal clock's going 100 miles a minute, so it's hard to execute, but it's doable. All right, so 90s versus catch. He's about a yard or two above our depth. We want to hit him with our best open field crossover. We got to get him off of his landmark. If I speed cut this or I square cut it, he's just going to snatch me right up. So we're really just bringing our jabs to the top of the route. The timing of how much patience I can have is where am I in the progression? What is my depth? Are they bringing more than we can protect? We're patient, we're sudden, and just like our hip shift, just like our jabs, we're pushing off that inside edge, shifting and transferring our weight from hip to hip. Michael Thomas, he's number 3 in the trips here. Cover defender's playing catch. His feet are in the ground, okay? So maybe not your textbook catch, but both feet are in the ground. He's no longer retreating. If I roll this over, he's going to snatch it. If I break down, he's going to snatch it. So I have to give him something to either move him this way or keep him here. Cooper Kupp, now he doesn't have to give as much because he has route leverage here, but he gives him a little hip shift to freeze him. Devontae Adams, he's playing catch technique at our depth. Okay, just like we spoke about our jabs in the line of scrimmage, like I don't want to be toe-to-toe with this guy. Like I need to be able to avoid contact. We like using the arms length apart. Here's an example of why that's important. Okay, so when I have a guy who's at my depth, both feet in the ground, he's not even in good position, but he's still got his feet in the ground about a yard from my route depth. If I just roll this over or speed cut it, we're talking right here. If I just roll this over or speed cut it, this is what's going to happen. I'm snatched and I'm covered. Okay, this is one of the best route runners in college football this year. I'm snatched and I'm covered. I want to break down and give him something to freeze him or pull him opposite of where I want to go. Michael Thomas, inside, bottom of your screen. Notice the distance here between the two of them. He cannot collision. Cooper Kupp, number 2 receiver, top of your screen. I'm going to get a better view of it, but let's just watch it from here. Eats up space, hits him with the crossover at the top. Okay, attack. He's kind of squatted near my depth. If I roll this over, he's jumping it. If I square cut it, he's jumping it. I need to give him something to pull him this way or freeze him. That's Marshawn Lattimore. He's one of the best corners in the league. We're patient. It's going to work. Foot, hip, shoulder, head, all together. We're bringing our jabs to the top of our route. We have to move our cover defender. All right, so now we're going to talk about the hitch. We won't go as in depth because it's a little bit more of a simple route. The big thing here is we're in attack mode in our vertical stem. We're vertical until we have to drop pop or drop our weight to get out of it. We'll talk about drop pop. We'll talk about a snap down. versus press, and this thing is locked. We have something over the top of it. Vertical until. We're going to snap, we're going to drop pop, whatever you need to do to decel, and it's going to be a throw by if he's latched on with an arm bar. So here are just some examples of a drop pop. Stephon Diggs, bottom of your screen. Attack, drop pop. Okay, we're not going to dive too deep into break points. All drop pop is 3 big, 2 little. The first little step, I'm dropping, sinking into a little bit. The next one, I'm popping and returning outside. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, drop, pop, ball. Big thing here is T.Y. Hilton's threatening vertical. Okay, if we bullshit, he's going to know something's coming. And then here's an example of just more of a breakdown in the hitch. Ultimately, we don't really win this with the break point as much as we do attacking vertical stem. Hitch versus off, another route. It's routes versus air for us. Now we got press. I like the opposite release this and work a throw by. Now, if you drop well enough, you don't even need to throw by. But Adam Humphries does such a good job attacking vertical that his guy's momentum is so damn fast down the field that when he stops, he can't match it. When arm is latched, though, we got to work a throw by. So I'm heating him up, full strides to exit. He shoots, we throw by. So this is, for example, like the hitch is locked on for some reason. A lot of times we'll convert hitches versus press. You have something over the top or you just want to keep it on. This is how we're winning it. So we'll talk curls. So now, same thing, we're in attack mode. Like I know I've had this on every slide because it's that important. Like we bullshit, he knows it. Okay, so we are in full attack mode in our vertical stem. We're vertical until our route depth. We're going to work a snap down or weight drop to exit. So I'm attacking. I'm going to drop. No indicator, right? So I'm in full attack mode. Vertical, vertical, vertical. Snap down, drop, and run out. Ideally, we'd run out. He does a good job exiting. Terrence Williams catches with his body sometimes. Michael Gallup at the top of your screen. Attacking vertical, snap, run out. This is a good example of running out of my break. When we snap, hip sink, nose over, arms tight, run out of my break. Curl versus off is another one, routes versus air for us, okay? This is a cool thing I saw from some one-on-ones with the Broncos, I believe in the early 2010s. He kind of chases the blind spot here on a curl, which is pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. I haven't really seen much of it. He's going to expand here like he's going to slip to go vertical, snaps it down, and runs back out of it. Just another tool in the toolbox that we've been playing around with. So now we got press, or we're hipped at our depth. Still attack mode, still vertical until depth. We're going to work a snap down or weight drop followed by a throw by. Could peak, but I prefer the throw by. Now, if we're winning same side release, all it is I'm vertical and I'm really just working my break. It basically comes down to who gets out of a curl better. Is it me or is it the DB? Like we work top of curl routes all the time. We say all the time, right now, the winner of this route is who runs the top of the curl better. Like here's Marquise Goodwin, here's the corner. Whoever gets out of a curl better wins. Because if he can't match my break, I'm open. Okay? You also add in the reaction buffer where he has to react to my break point. As long as I'm providing no indicators, we basically should have a head start. So we say all the time, we same side release on curls. It comes down to who gets out of it better. With the caveat of being that we're pushing vertical, we're providing no indicators. Okay? So same side release, inside. Who runs it better? Same concept. Here's Julio at the top. Same side release. Who runs a curl better? We work top of curls a lot more than DBs do. So we better run it better. And then same concept on a stop route. So now we're talking opposite release, okay? Latched at our depth. I want to work this throw by technique here. So he's latched, arms on. I'm going to strike anywhere from, really wrist to shoulder, elbow to shoulder, ideally. Now he takes a circle release because he's so tight to the line. He's got a condensed split. Vertical, 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 throw by, ball. Now working back to the QB, depends on scheme. We'll see one here. Same clips from the one-on-ones with the Broncos from I don't really know when. Opposite release, so I got a curl, which is technically an in-breaker. I'm going to win outside, attack, attack, attack. Arm is latched, throw him by, run out. Big thing here is we're not bullshitting our vertical stem. Attack, 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 throw by. We'll talk comebacks, very similar to curl, the break point rather. We got cushion at our depth. We're going to try and attack that blind spot, getting that near hit, so he cannot see us. We have to threaten vertical here. This is a route you can play around with the Hesi in your stand, whatever you want. But to me, let's go heat him up. Let's make this look like I'm trying to win over the top. I get to that near hit, I'm snapping down. Marvin Harrison, top of your screen. Attack, attack, attack. Drop, run out. Another one like these to me, curls versus off, comeback versus off, like cushion out our depth hitches, cushion out our depth outs, cushion out our depth ins. Like these should really be like routes on air to us. When there's cushion at our break point, the only way we're covered is by telling the DB what we're running. And the way we do that is by giving them one of those indicators. So here's another comeback and chase the near hip. Drop down. The big thing I like about this route is that he doesn't just bow out here. Like a lot of guys will just get whiffed. Like he's attacking in line, like straight line. So he's vertical, he's vertical. He's going to just kind of expand slightly to act like he's going to slip and go vertical. Come back versus off. We want to get in that near hip, get in that blind spot. So now we're pressed, reverse press. We're hipped at our depth. We want to work. I don't like opposite releasing on comebacks. I guess I don't really know why. I've never done them. You could talk me out of that very easily. I just haven't seen much of them. You could, I guess, inside release to throw by, but we're going to talk about outside releasing. We have to sell vertical here. We have to get him turn to run with the threat of vertical. And at the top, we're going to work a snap down to run out of it, a weight drop, whatever you want to call it. Some guys aren't as comfortable snapping down as others. Just a violent drop of weight to run out. We could possibly work that peak before snapping down. Attack, 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 peak, drop. Really nice job sinking his hips. Like the best comeback run of all time. It's a shame it wasn't in the game. Big thing, like I'm pushing vertical. Mari Cooper is not bullshitting his strides here. Nose over, run out. One thing we've been playing around with actually is not winning the vertical too much on a comeback. I know it's tough concept to wrap your head around, but you almost give him a head start if you're 3 yards in front of him on the break to the comeback. So we don't really want to crush him at the line of scrimmage here. Julio, top of your screen. Really nice job, works the peak. He kind of throttles because it's a scramble drill a little bit, but it kind of helps him out because If he's running away from him right now, there's going to be a lot of space here. He might be able to recover on the comeback. Go over slants, and it'll be the last thing we cover for the day. Versus off, cushion at depth. Like, once again, I'm going to say it another time. It's vertical until it's not. It's a 3-step route. We should not be bullshitting anything. We're in attack mode. We stick our foot in the ground. It's a completion. Like, if the ball's on time, it's a completion. It's routes on air for us. The way we run this with no DB out there should be the same. I'm attacking. I'm sticking my outside foot in the ground on the 3rd step. If it's 4, whatever steps you use, and I'm breaking to my slant. I don't need to give any head. I don't need to give any foot. I don't need to give any shoulder. Like, run through your defender, stick your foot in the ground, ball's on you. Less is more. Okay, so Corey Coleman, top of your screen, cushion at the break point. 1, 2, 3, ball. Less is more. Easy offense. Sometimes football's really this easy. 1, 2, 3, ball. He's not giving anything too far outside his framework here. There's a time and place, but when there's this much cushion at our depth, fuck him. We don't need to move him anywhere. We're good with it just like this. Stevie Johnson. Okay, we got about 7 yards of cushion at our break. What the fuck do we need a head and shoulder fake for? Just stick our left foot in the ground and the ball's on us. Less is more. Michael Thomas making it look exactly the same. Okay, this is frozen at his 2nd stride. We'll see it on his 3rd. Same exact body mechanics. By the time he sticks his left foot in the ground, DB's late every time. Okay, versus press or outside leverage. So we have outside leverage press. We work a single jab to move or freeze that cover defender. The biggest part here is that we're reestablishing vertical. So I'm not just jabbing and then breaking to my slant because he's just going to be on my back. So I'm jabbing, reestablishing vertical, pressure stepping back to my slant. Here's Odell at the top of your screen. He's going to work a jab with his right foot. He's going to move Desmond Trufant. Now, most important part here, I'm back here now. Okay, I'm not just breaking here, because of the low cover defender, but even if it was a one-on-one rep, he could just hop right on my back here and possibly break this up. So I have to reestablish vertical, and the angle of departure here is based on a million different things. We're not going to dive into that. So I'm working my single jab. So now he's moving out. Okay, so now the DB's moving out. Now he has to reestablish and chase vertical. And by the time he reestablishes vertical, I'm already breaking to my slant. Okay, it's brutal to cover. It's a lot of movements in a short time, a lot of reaction for the DB in a short time. We know where we're going. He does not. Single jab, keep him out there. Obviously, hands are prepared for combat. Attack vertical, break to the slant. Calvin Ridley, same thing, just eats up space prior to doing it. Bottom of your screen. One more with Sterling Shepard. Single jab, reestablish vertical, break to the slant. Watch the suddenness. Watch how he gets the DB to flip his hips now to turn and run. Okay, so he jabs, he expands. Okay, he does a nice job. This is AJ Gouye, who's an unbelievable corner. He expands. Okay, jab, DB expands. Now watch him flip this hip to turn and run. That's what wins this route. Okay, if Shep just breaks to the slant early, right now, like he's on his back. Like right out of a single jab, like DB's on his back. There's no separation. The vertical stem is what creates the separation. And then this will be the last part of the slants that we go over. This is the diamond release, which we spoke about, is kind of related to the dive release. We're attacking in V's. So I'm attacking in my dive, I'm attacking here. In my diamond, I'm attacking here. I have to threaten vertical. You can have the right idea, but if you don't execute it properly, it doesn't matter. Can't tell you how many times guys will work this diamond, but they'll bullshit their strides the diamond, the outside release, and the DB's just sitting there. So when we try and snap underneath him, he just yokes us up. Okay, we have to get him to flip his hip and turn and run with this this diamond, if you will, this outside release. We're always prepared for combat. So here's Amari Cooper. So he runs this exactly how we would run a vertical. Kind of stretches him inside. Now it's a go ball. Now it's a vertical. Attack, snap underneath. Different rep, same game. Attack, snap underneath. We have to get him to flip his hip and turn and run. How we exit this is really based on at what point does he flip his hip and turn and run. Okay. He's flipped now, so I'm going to stop on my left, break on my right. Sometimes we'll single step exit. It's based on where the DB is and what guys are comfortable doing. And last clip of the day, Darius Slayton takes it, come to balance, speed release, full strides, snaps underneath. Biggest thing about this is that we are threatening vertical. If that's the one thing you take away from it, we have to open his hip up to turn and run this way. All right, Coach. Good for today.
Nah, awesome stuff, Mike. Awesome stuff. Really appreciate that. I know we got a couple questions in there that you kind of answered as we were going along. But if anybody has any questions for Coach in regards to the presentation, man, just drop them in that chat right there. Until then, if you want to share your contact information so they can hit you up if they got any questions. Or like I said, guys, I mean, great follow. Definitely offers up a ton of resources, really good videos and explanations on a lot of stuff. There it is. There it is. Nah, really good stuff, man. I mean, the breakdown and just everything's super detailed, man. That's what's awesome.
Yeah, I tried to have something where like, if he does this, then we do this type of thing. Like not diving too deep into the break points, because that's a whole nother, like that would take hours, right? Like doing all this with the break points, just like it would be forever. So I just having a plan for each thing.
No, I think it's awesome. Like being at the high school level, not having like a tremendous amount of time, with my guys, I know specifically, like, I mean, of course I'll touch on certain coverages and like what they look like with them, but more or less, like I want them to be able to understand different leverages and how it affects the route that you're running. So like, that's exactly what you're talking about here. And it's awesome. So now, like you said, the really important aspect of it is having that plan. So when you understand what route you're running, along with, dissecting how the DB's playing you, shoot, man, it's like you feel so confident because all right, outside leverage on this route, this is what I got. This dude's inside leverage, whatever. So really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach. And I think what you said is pretty accurate in the sense that, like, if you can't beat the man covering you, it doesn't really matter what coverage they're running, right? Like it doesn't matter. So we definitely need to have a plan when we get out there, especially like the young guys will get out there and they'll okay, you got a curl. Like how many times in one-on-ones have you sent the kid out and he's got a curl and he gets out there and he has no fucking idea what to do, like it's just, give these guys the tools.
Yep,
we got to coach them up, how to use them, when to use them, and then just provide them with the stimulus to work on them.
For sure. Like I said, when you're on that line of scrimmage, don't get me wrong, if a kid fully understands how coverages work, great. But you know what? Can you decipher, or really dissect the depth of that defender playing you and the leverage, along with what your route is? The plan comes to you. Do you see do you have the chat open?
Yeah.
Okay. Just just some praise in there, man. So which is really cool. Appreciate you guys tuning in for sure. But yeah, guys, I'm telling you, reach out to him, and then just like I said, he's a great follow. A lot of this stuff, right? He'll obviously, with Twitter the way it is, obviously you're not going to post a ton of stuff, breaking it down in shorter videos.
Mm.
is great. So and a lot of this stuff, man, you'll see on his page. So definitely do that, man. Check it out for sure.